Revealed, a life-changing inheritance surprise after 5 years of abandoning her husband with cancer. Melissa stood frozen in her tiny apartment, the bright city lights flickering like distant stars. The letter trembled in her hands, its stark white envelope an unwelcome reminder of her past. 5 years had passed since she fled her quiet Nebraska town, where her husband Dave was fighting a battle no one should endure alone. Her bakery used to fill the lives of locals with sweetness, but now all it held was the bitterness of her abandoned vows. As the sun rose each day, illuminating the bustling streets, Melissa felt the weight of her choice crush her spirit. She sought solace in the city's chaos, hoping to drown her guilt in new experiences. Yet every laugh she heard seemed to twist the knife deeper. Joy was a ghost she couldn't seem to catch. She often pictured Dave, his eyes filled with hope, surrounded by friends who rallied for him like a fortress against the storm. It haunted her absence had allowed a vibrant community to thrive while she sought escape. But the letter, now creased at the edges from her grip, shattered that fragile facade. She was the sole heir to Dave's life insurance policy, a bitter inheritance she never wanted. The community that once supported him had also held her accountable for her abandonment, and she could feel the churning emotions around her like a storm. Guilt washed over her in tidal waves. Why had she left when he needed her most? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a heart full of trepidation, she made the drive back to her past, traversing familiar roads lined with memories. The town looked the same, yet every corner held the weight of her shame. She envisioned the shattered dreams they had shared, each one leaving a scar as deep as the last. Melissa entered the coffee shop, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the bittersweet aroma of nostalgia. Whispers filled the room, eyes casting sideways glances her way. Everyone knew her story. Everyone knew her absence. She locked eyes with Sam, Dave's closest friend. His anger palpable. The tension thick like fog settled over the room. "You hurt us all, Melissa," he said, voice barely above a whisper, yet heavy with emotion. Hurt shifted in the air, a chasm wide enough to swallow her whole. Could she find redemption in their eyes? Could forgiveness bridge the gulf she'd created? Just as the atmosphere peaked, the door swung open. A familiar figure stepped inside, an unexpected presence that sent a ripple through the crowd. Who could it be? Could this be the key to mending what had been broken? What consequences awaited her in this shared moment of reckoning? Would the weight of her guilt finally lead to the hope she was desperate for, or further tighten the chains that had bound her since her departure? Melissa's breath caught in her throat as the door swung open wider, revealing a figure she never thought she'd see again. Jenna, Dave's sister, stood in the doorway, eyes wide as they locked on her. The room grew silent, tension hanging like a thick veil. For a moment, time froze. Jenna's face reflected a mirrored chaos of emotions: anger, pain, confusion. She was still the fiery spirit Melissa remembered, with a strength that now felt directed solely at her. She stepped inside, shutting the door behind her, sealing off any chance of escape. "What are you doing here?" Jenna's voice cut through the air, sharp and icy. It was a question laden with years of heartache, and Melissa felt each syllable land heavily. "I came back to," Melissa stammered, feeling small under the weight of Jenna's glare. Her heart raced. This wasn't the reunion she had imagined. "I received the letter about Dave's insurance." "Don't," Jenna interrupted, raising her hand as if to physically push Melissa away. "You didn't want anything to do with him when he was alive. Why should you benefit now?" The accusation hung in the air, palpable and suffocating. Melissa's insides twisted, the guilt that had accompanied her for years now crystallizing into something sharp and painful. "Because I'm sorry," she blurted out, the words bursting forth like a dam breaking. "I'm so sorry for leaving. I thought I'd find a way to escape this guilt, but I can't. I shouldn't have ever left him. I thought it would be easier. Jenna's expression softened just a fraction, caught between fury and understanding. Easier? You think running away made it easier for him? Or for us? Every day, I watched him fight. He needed you, and you vanished. Every word was a knife, slicing deeper, revealing the raw pain she had tried to bury. So many nights she had replayed that decision. She could never shake the memory of Dave's hopeful smile, how it had washed away when she turned to leave. The whispers started again, a low murmur from the other patrons. They were spectators in a drama of loss. Melissa felt eyes upon her, judging, weighing her worth in the fabric of their grief. I came back to make things right, Melissa faltered, her voice tremulous. To honor Dave. Honor him? Jenna scoffed, but there was no venom in her tone now. You think a money check can honor him? It's not about money, Melissa. It's about loyalty, love. You abandoned him when he needed you most. Do you even realize what you've done? Melissa's throat constricted. The truth was inescapable. She had abandoned everything that made her life meaningful. Was there really a way back from this? Feeling the urgency of the moment, she stepped forward, desperation clawing at her heart. Jenna, please, I need to know how to make this right. I want to help his memory live on. I want to be part of that. The silence thickened, and Jenna's gaze turned toward the ground as if searching for answers buried in the floor. Melissa held her breath, hoping. What if our family can forgive you? Jenna's voice trembled as she spoke, determination etched into her features. What if you use that inheritance to help him continue living? To help those who are still fighting? Melissa's heart surged with possibility. Could this be her chance? But questions lingered. Could giving back, facing their collective grief, lead her toward forgiveness? Would you be willing to fight with us, Melissa? Jenna asked, uncertainty mingling with hope in her voice. Melissa nodded, the weight of that decision heavy yet liberating. Together, could they really turn pain into purpose? Just as she was about to respond, the door swung open again, and another familiar face entered, one that would challenge everything she thought she was ready for. Who else would arrive to challenge her resolve, to pull her deeper into the storm of emotions? Would her past continue to collide with her present, or could this new encounter finally give her the clarity she longed for? Melissa barely had time to absorb Jenna's words when the sound of the door creaking swung her focus to the figure stepping inside. A chill ran down her spine. It was Jake, Dave's best friend and confidant, someone who knew all too well about the tangled web that had been their lives. Jake, she breathed, her voice shaky. He looked just as she remembered, tall and strong, but the weariness in his eyes told a different story. He had aged in these 5 years, each line on his face a testament to the burden of grief they all carried. His presence felt like a thundercloud looming over her fragile hope. Melissa, he said, the word laced with a mixture of surprise and something colder disappointment, perhaps? She swallowed hard, steeling herself against the emotions that rushed forward like tidal waves. Why are you here? Jake's tone was guarded. He crossed his arms, standing resolutely between her and the door, as if to ensure she couldn't escape from the scrutiny of her past mistakes. I came to. She looked at Jenna, searching for reinforcement, but all she found was an intensity that bore into her. I came to try to make things right. Make things right? He echoed, incredulity woven into his voice. After 5 years of silence, do you think it's that simple? You think you can just waltz back in and act like you give a damn about what happened? Jake, please, Melissa pleaded, desperation seeping into her words. I didn't think I could ever come back. I didn't know how to face this. You didn't plan to face it at all, he shot back, each word sharp as glass. She could see the anger simmering beneath his skin, and it stung, each bite like salt in an open wound. Jenna stepped forward, her voice firm but softer than Jake's. Yes, right, you know. You made a choice, Melissa. But we're not here to drag you down. We're trying to find a way to help each other lift the burden we all carry. Jake's arms dropped slightly as he registered the shift in Jenna's tone. He sighed, running his hands through his hair as if to comb away his own tension. I just can't wrap my head around this. You left him, Melissa. He was heartbroken. I know, she cried, the weight of her guilt rising up again like a suffocating fog. I hated myself every day for it. That's why I'm here. I want to help. I want to honor him. I thought maybe by using the insurance money, we could do something good in his name. Silence hung in the air, thick and heavy. Jake's expression transformed, a flicker of thought crossing his face. You think that money can replace the love he lost? That it can fix what you broke? No, her heart raced. I can't fix the past, but I can try to help the future. The room vibrated with tension, and Melissa could feel her heart thudded louder in her chest. Patterns of pain and hope twisted together, some impenetrable reality staring them down. Jenna's gaze softened as she looked from Melissa to Jake, searching for a middle ground. What if we all work together? Honoring Dave means more than just his memory. It's about supporting those still fighting, protecting them from what he went through. Jake hesitated, and Melissa could see the internal conflict playing out on his face. She dared to hope, hoping this conversation could shift the currents of their collective grief. But before any decision could take form, the door swung open once more. A hushed gasp swept through the room as a woman walked in, a stranger at first, with a familiar air about her. Something in her face seemed to remind Melissa of the past that haunted her. Did I miss something? The woman asked, a hint of curiosity laced with an unsettling chill in her tone. Who is she, and what role would she play in this unraveling story? Melissa felt the knot of anxiety tighten in her chest. Could this meeting lead to more pain, or would it catalyze the healing they so desperately sought? Melissa stared at the newcomer, her heart racing. The woman's presence felt charged, like static electricity ready to spark. She was in her early 30s, with long, dark hair that framed a face illuminated by an unsettling confidence. There was something unsettlingly familiar about her, like a ghost she hadn't expected to see. Who are you? Jake said, his voice cutting through the tension, and Melissa found herself grateful for the distraction. I'm Sarah. The woman introduced herself with an easy smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I was looking for Jake. Jake's expression shifted from anger to confusion. Why do you want to see me? I heard about Dave's passing, and I wanted to pay my respects. It's been a while since I've been here, and, well, I thought it might help. Melissa felt a shiver pass through her. Why was this woman here? Her gaze flickered to Jake, wondering if he sensed the same unsettling vibe. I don't think now's the right time, Jake replied, his voice taut. You can't just waltz in as if nothing happened. Sarah's smile faltered. I know I've been away. I understand if you're angry. Angry? He spat back. Angry is just scratching the surface. You don't know the pain we've been through. I know. She took a deep breath. I lost my own brother to cancer a year before Dave. I just wanted to help people deal with this aftermath. That's why I started volunteer work after grade, Melissa interjected, feeling the heat rise in her chest. But what does that have to do with us? Because Sarah took a step forward, her voice growing softer yet more intense. I found something that might change everything for you, for all of us. What are you talking about? Jake demanded, his brows furrowing. After Dave passed, I rifled through my brother's things. There were old letters and accounts. I didn't want to bring it up until I was sure. But I found out something about Dave that I think you all deserve to know. The room fell into a profound stillness. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown, tension coiling tighter within Melissa. Why did she feel this woman had stepped right out of a lie? Spit it out, Jake said, his voice a mix of impatience and dread. I can't explain it all right now, Sarah said quickly, glancing nervously between them. But Dave may have had ties with a foundation for cancer research. It was small and under the radar, but he helped build it before he got sick. And there are funds perhaps large enough to turn your plans into something real. Why don't you just hand us a cherry on top of a shit sandwich? Jake snapped in frustration. No, Melissa said, surprising herself. Wait. This might be what we need. Jake's expression softened, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. But Melissa caught the almost imperceptible gasp coming from Sarah. The fragile moment froze as uncertainty settled heavily in the air. Whether you believe me or not, it's worth checking, Sarah continued, her voice now urgent. Dave wanted to do something for others, and maybe you could continue his legacy. Melissa felt a rush of emotion, sorrow, anger, but also a spark of something new, hope. And what exactly makes you think we can trust you? Jake challenged, folding his arms again. Because. Sarah hesitated for a moment, her face shifting between the mask of confidence and vulnerability. I was there with him in his last days. He spoke of you. Didn't he want to die angry? And I think she paused, her voice trembling. I think he wanted you to forgive yourselves. As her words hung in the air, it felt as if the room had suddenly grown lighter, yet heavier all at once. Was this the doorway to something transformative? What secrets lay buried beneath Dave's past? And would they be able to confront their pain and honor his memory at last? The silence thickened, a tension that felt like it could burst. Melissa could see it in Jake's eyes, a battle between disbelief and the faintest flicker of hope. She took a step closer to him, sensing they would need each other now more than ever. The ghost of their past was here, standing right in front of them, Sarah, a living reminder of everything they had run from. Forgive ourselves? Jake's voice cracked, the weight of regret clinging to him like a shadow. You don't understand what we didn't do. How can we forgive ourselves when we couldn't even save him? Melissa felt a pang of sympathy for him. They had spent the years since Dave's passing tied in their own guilt. Plans discarded, dreams laid to rest. Could one revelation from a stranger really change that? Maybe we don't need to save him, Melissa said quietly, her voice steadier than she felt. Maybe we need to honor his memory instead. Sarah's expression softened, something akin to gratitude washing over her. That's what I hope to hear. This foundation, it's not just money. It's hope. It's a chance to help others facing what Dave went through. Jake uncrossed his arms, his body language shifting slightly as he began to open up to her words. How do we even begin to find this foundation? I found the old documents, they're stored online. I can help you dig through them. It's still small, but I believe it has the potential to grow. You can channel your grief into something impactful. Melissa could see Jake wrestling with his emotions. In one moment, he was a fierce protector, fueled by anger at Sarah. In the next, a fractured man barely holding together. Why now? He asked, his voice thick and trembling. Why come back now with this? Because, Sarah replied, her voice shaking, I realized that healing isn't a solitary journey. We all grieved in our own corners and assumed the weight was ours to carry alone. I didn't want to overwhelm you then, I just thought I had moved on. But Dave's story deserves to be told, not just buried. Melissa inhaled deeply, the air heavy with the scent of memories and loss mingling together. What if we do this? She suggested, her voice bold with newfound clarity. What if we find out who Dave really was in those last years? If this foundation can help others like him, maybe we can finally let go of some of this burden. Jake looked at her, the corner of his mouth twitching, a ghost of a smile trying to emerge. You'd really want to do that? Together, she replied, reaching for his hand, capturing a moment of unity in the midst of chaos. As a way to honor him. Okay, Jake nodded resolutely, turning back to Sarah. Let us see what you've got. Sarah's face glowed with a mix of relief and determination. Thank you, she whispered, a hint of vulnerability creeping into her steady demeanor. In that moment, Melissa felt a shift. The foundation of their grief was beginning to transform into something else entirely, purpose. As they gathered around Sarah, the three of them forming an unexpected alliance, hope glimmered like a distant star flickering into view. Perhaps this was the start of healing, a new chapter they never thought to write. But deep down, an unsettling question lingered in Melissa's mind. What were they truly about to uncover in Dave's past? And would the truth set them free, or bury them deeper into the shadows? The air felt charged as they settled around Sarah's laptop, the faint hum of the machine taking on a life of its own. Jake leaned forward, his brows knitted, anticipation and fear mingling on his face. Melissa squeezed his hand, trying to anchor him in the storm of emotions swirling around them. "Let's start with the records I found," Sarah said, her fingers dancing over the keyboard. "This is where it all began." The screen flickered to life, filling the space with a soft glow. Documents popped up, revealing forms and notes that seemed foreign yet intimately familiar. Melissa's heart raced. These papers held the echoes of Dave's struggles, what he had faced in those final years. "Look!" Sarah pointed at a document, her voice steadier than Melissa felt. "This is a list of the support groups and the resources he attempted to access." Jake leaned closer, scanning through the text. "He never mentioned these." His voice was barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would shatter the fragile moment. Why didn't he reach out? Melissa's heart ached. It brought back memories of whispered fears, loneliness wrapped in bravado. Maybe he felt ashamed, or afraid of burdening us. "But look at this," Sarah interrupted, scrolling to a different page. "He was trying. He had a plan for the future. He wanted to start a support workshop for families facing what he went through. He wanted to help people." Jake's breath hitched, a reflection of vulnerability crossing his face. He always put others first, even in his darkest moments. Melissa felt tears prick her eyes, the realization that Dave had been struggling alone, while they had been caught in their own whirlwinds of grief. "We were so wrapped up in our sorrow. We thought he needed us to be strong. But maybe what he really needed was for us to see him." As Sarah pulled up photographs from the online archive, the screen illuminated images of Dave smiling, laughing, and surrounded by people he had touched. It was a different side of him, one that revealed hope amidst despair. Each snapshot was a reminder of the vibrant man who had fought tirelessly, not just for his life, but for connection, for understanding, and ultimately, for his friends. "Look," Sarah said softly, her voice thick with emotion as she clicked on an old video. The grainy film came to life, showing Dave in front of a small group, animated, his voice filled with passion. This was him leading a workshop. He was inspiring others even when he was overwhelmed. Tears fell freely from Melissa's eyes as they watched. Jake's jaw tightened, emotions coursing through him as if pulling him into the past. "I had no idea," he murmured. Together, they watched Dave talk about his journey, his laughter echoing off the walls of their memories. It was cathartic yet excruciating, a reminder of what they had lost, and what might have been. "His spirit didn't just fade," Melissa said, voice trembling with revelation. "He fought for others. We've been so lost in our guilt that we denied his truth. But we can share it. We can continue his fight." Sarah nodded, her eyes glistening. "That's the ownership of this foundation. It's about carrying that torch." A tremor ran through Jake as he processed this newfound awareness. "We can build something that honors him. Something that helps families like his, like ours." But as they spoke about dreams and potential, a lurking doubt crept back into Melissa's mind. "And what if we find out something we're not ready for?" She posed, glancing between them. "What if we discover things about Dave that change everything?" Jake held her gaze, the knot of fear tightening in his stomach. Maybe uncovering the truth is the only way to truly honor him. A moment of silence engulfed them as they consciously stepped into uncharted territory. The path ahead shimmered with possibility, threatening to expose scars they had thought healed. As they shared their fears and hopes, Melissa could almost feel the ghost of Dave hovering nearby, urging them to proceed, to brave the storm together. But the question loomed large: would they be able to face whatever truths lay hidden, and could they bear the weight of those revelations? As the tension hung in the air, a sense of purpose began to form around them. Sarah was the first to break the silence, her fingers trembling as she navigated through the wild web of Dave's digital life. "Let's dig deeper," she said, her voice a mixture of determination and worry. "We need to know everything we can about him." Jake nodded slowly, the gravity of their mission sinking in. "Yet if we're going to do this right, we need to be fully aware of who he was, all of who he was." He leaned back, running a hand through his hair, eyes distant. I just didn't think he was struggling that much. Melissa could hardly breathe. The layers of Dave's life unfolded in front of her like a flower slowly revealing its petals. It's heartbreaking. He fought so hard to help others, but couldn't he let us in? Her voice cracked, waves of guilt washing over her. Sarah pulled up another document, this one rich with the promise of new answers. This is from a psychiatrist. It looks like he was in therapy. For years. She paused, glancing at her friends. He not only acknowledged his struggles but sought help. We should have seen the signs. What else did he hide? Jake's question hung heavy in the air, the unsteady rhythm of vulnerability creeping back in. Melissa clenched her fists, preparing for whatever revelations might tear them apart. Let us keep looking, Sarah said, her determination igniting something in Melissa too. They couldn't stop now. She felt the weight of their shared grief, the collective sadness that had lingered long enough. They needed transformation, a chance to share Dave's legacy. The trio immersed themselves in the dizzying pages, following breadcrumbs of Dave's journey. With every discovery, they unearthed parts of him they had never known, fragments of a man they only thought they understood. His dreams, his fears, and now, these fractured pieces of his truth challenged them in ways they hadn't anticipated. Here's something, Sarah said suddenly, her voice taking on a new urgency. A journal entry. She read aloud, her voice trembling with emotion. I often feel like a burden. I try to help, to make it better for everyone, but sometimes I think that may be the very thing that pulls me under. Jake's face paled. Melissa could nearly see the gears turning in his head. He felt overwhelmed, like he was drowning. Tears blurred Melissa's vision as she caught sight of another familiar detail in the journal. But why didn't he say anything to us? She whispered, a wave of frustration mixed with sorrow tugging at her. A heavy silence engulfed them again, and Melissa glanced at Sarah. What do we do with this information? Where do we go from here? What if it's not just about continuing his fight? What if it means breaking our silence as well? Sarah's suggestion surprised them, but a flicker of hope ignited in Melissa. We can share our struggles as well. It could help others see they're not alone like Dave must have felt. Jake exhaled sharply, the idea pulsating in the air between them. Right. It might be time for us to be honest about our own pain and struggles. Maybe Dave's story can teach us to break free. Melissa's heart swelled but clenched simultaneously. They could do it. They could honor his fight by being vulnerable too. Yet uncertainty loomed. What if revealing our struggles brings more pain? Maybe the pain of truth is less than the pain of silence, Jake replied quietly, a flicker of resolve shining through his eyes. Just then, a notification pinged on Sarah's laptop. It caught their attention instantly. What is that? Melissa leaned closer. Sarah frowned and clicked on it, revealing a message from a name none of them recognized. It's an email from someone claiming to be Dave's old friend. 1,000 questions raced through Melissa's mind. Who could it be? What did they want? And what secrets could this stranger hold? Should we open it? Jake's voice was barely a whisper, but deep down, they all knew the answer. They had come too far to turn back now. With a swipe of her finger, Sarah clicked to reveal the truth behind the email. Melissa held her breath, ready to leap into whatever awaited them on the other side. Sarah's eyes widened as she scanned the email. It's from someone named Liz, she said, a note of urgency creeping into her voice. She says she has something important to share about Dave, something we need to know. What does she mean? Melissa asked, her heart skipped a beat. It felt like the ground beneath them was shifting again, shaking loose more of Dave's hidden truths. Sarah continued reading, her voice steady but filled with tension. She claims they were close friends for years before he moved away, stronger than just acquaintances. She wants to meet us, says she has insights into his life, especially things he didn't share with us. Jake inhaled sharply. Why now? Why didn't she reach out before? Is she just a ghost from his past? Melissa felt a mixture of dread and curiosity. Why had Dave kept her a secret? It felt like another layer of mystery draping over their already fragile understanding of him. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Let us meet her," Sarah said without hesitation. "We need to know the truth. All of it. Do you think she can provide answers? Or will it just complicate things?" Jake countered, his brow furrowing. Melissa bit her lip, weighing the decision. Deep down, she felt they had to confront this unknown. If we don't meet her, we might regret it. She could hold the key to understanding his struggles. After a moment, Jake nodded slowly. "Okay. But can we trust her? What if she's just looking for attention?" Sarah moved to type out a response. "We can't let fear hold us back. I'll ask her to tell us more about her relationship with Dave and what she thinks he was going through." There was a fierce determination in her voice that gave Melissa strength. As Sarah typed, the room filled with a thick silence charged with anticipation. Melissa watched her fingers dance across the keyboard, anxiety buzzing in the air around them. Each click felt monumental. When Sarah finally hit send, a wave of uncertainty rushed over them. "Now we wait," she said softly, glancing around as if the walls might offer some reassurance. Melissa slumped back in her chair, vulnerability creeping back in. "What if it's too much? What if she unravels everything we thought we knew?" "Then we will face it together," Jake replied firmly. "No matter how painful it gets." Hours seemed to stretch as they sat together, failing at focusing on anything else. The weight of Dave's memory enveloped them, twisting into their own feelings of guilt and regret. They avoided eye contact, each wrapped in their thoughts until Sarah's computer pinged again. This time, it was a response from Liz. "She wants to meet us tomorrow at a cafe downtown. She seems eager to help us understand," Sarah read, her voice trembling again with the weight of the potential fallout. "And what about?" Melissa started, but the question hung in the air. "Maybe she'll have answers," Jake interjected quietly. Melissa's heart raced at the idea of this stranger unraveling secrets about Dave. There was fear, but also a flicker of hope sizzling just beneath the surface. They agreed swiftly to meet, yet the trepidation transformed into a tangible energy. It pulled them wanting to understand, even if this journey cracked them open further. That night was sleepless, filled with apprehension and restless thoughts. The cafe, an innocent spot on the surface, now felt like a battleground where emotions might collide. What revelations would Liz bring? Was this the moment they had needed, or would it break them even more? A rush of questions buzzed in Melissa's mind, but one stood out as they prepared to sleep. Could their own darkness lead to the light they desperately sought? With morning creeping in, they had to face Liz, and the truth she harbored could change everything. The sun peeked through the curtains, casting a warm glow across Melissa's face. It felt surreal, knowing that the day held the potential for clarity or chaos. She lay in bed, the sheets tangled around her, heart racing at the thought of meeting Liz. She turned to check the time, and with a deep breath, she swung her legs over the side of the bed, steeling herself for what lay ahead. After a quick shower, she dressed in a simple blue sweater that seemed to mirror her mood, calm on the surface, yet wrinkled with anxiety underneath. She found Sarah in the kitchen, rituals of coffee brewing filling the air with something comforting. Jake was already at the table, his fingers tapping nervously against his phone. "Ready?" Sarah asked, pouring coffee into a hand-painted mug. Melissa nodded, but the quiet stillness was heavy between them. Each thought about what Liz might reveal felt like a stone settling in the pit of her stomach. They made their way to the cafe, the vibrant colors of autumn leaves lining the streets serving as a stark contrast to the turmoil inside her. As they approached the entrance, Melissa hesitated before pushing the door open, the soft chime of the bell above signaling their arrival. The cafe bustled with chatter and the smell of baked goods. "Let us find a spot in the corner," Jake suggested, scanning the room. They settled in, the small table offering an intimate space filled with a mixture of hope and dread. Each passing minute felt like an eternity. As they waited, they exchanged glances but said little, letting their thoughts drift like the leaves outside, swirling in unpredictable patterns. Then, the door swung open, and Liz stepped inside. She immediately caught their attention. Her hair was a wild cascade of curls, and she wore a cozy green shawl that looked lived in. Her eyes searched the room, landing on their table. With a nervous smile, she approached. "Hi," she said cheerfully, despite the heaviness hovering in the air. "You must be Melissa, Jake, and Sarah." "Yeah, that's us," Melissa managed to say, forcing a smile in return. They invited her to sit, and as Liz settled in, the air grew thick with unspoken words. Liz took a deep breath, her gaze steady but clearly nervous. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me. I know you might have a lot of questions about Dave, and trust me, I do too." "Why didn't you reach out sooner?" Jake asked, his eyes narrowing in scrutiny. Liz fiddled with a napkin, her expression wavering. "I didn't know it was time until I saw his passing hit the news. I thought about all the things that I wished I could have told him and you all." Melissa glanced at Sarah, who had her brows furrowed deep in thought. "What did you mean by that? What can you tell us about his life?" Liz hesitated, looking down at her lap as if gathering her thoughts. "Dave, he had a lot of layers. Some were painful. He was confused about who he was and what he really wanted from life," she said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. Melissa's heart thumped in her chest. It was a truth she could sense all along but had never fully understood. "What do you mean?" "I think he kept a lot of things from you, dark things. But I believe he loved you all very much, in a way that tangled his heart," Liz said, her eyes raising to meet theirs. A knock at the door jolted the conversation. A heavy-set man in a business suit entered, his presence commanding attention. On seeing Liz, he froze for a moment, an odd look crossing his face. "Liz?" he said, his voice booming. "Jason," she whispered in disbelief, as if confronted by a ghost. The moment stretched, tension thick in the air as they all stared at the new arrival. Melissa's heart raced. What truth lurked behind this sudden interruption? Was Liz's connection to Dave more complex than they thought? This was only the beginning of unraveling the layers. The real revelation seemed closer than ever. The atmosphere thickened as the man approached their table, Liz's expression blending anger and disbelief. "What are you doing here?" she snapped, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "You should have told me you were meeting them," Jason replied, his tone sharp but low, as if not wanting to draw attention. Melissa exchanged glances with Jake and Sarah. This sudden tension felt like an unseen weight pressing down on their hearts. Who was Jason in relation to Dave, and why was his presence unsettling everything? "Why did you follow me?" Liz shot back, her voice defiant. "You don't get to control this." Jason's brow furrowed. "It's not about control. I'm trying to protect you, Liz. You shouldn't be digging into this." "Digging into what?" Jake interrupted, his patience wearing thin. "Who are you?" "I'm Jason. A friend of Liz's and someone who cared about Dave too," he said, his gaze shifting between them, trying to gauge their reactions. "But this isn't just about friendship." Melissa felt a rush of frustration. "We came here for answers about Dave," she said, trying to redirect the conversation. "Just tell us what you know." Jason looked at Liz, gauging her reaction before drawing a breath. "When Dave was sick, he had an entire life that was hidden, even from those he loved. The people he turned to, they were his support system when times got tough." Liz's gaze darkened as she added, "He didn't want any of you to see him at his weakest. He hid many parts of who he was, including the struggles that he faced in silence." Melissa could feel the pieces of the puzzle reshuffling in her mind. "What struggles?" she pressed, desperate now for clarity, for understanding. Jason reached for Liz's hand, an unexpected gesture that seemed to soften some of the tension. "He fought against a lot more than just the disease. He felt lost. He carried guilt, a heavy burden from things he felt he couldn't share with anyone, including you." "Guilt about what?" Melissa's voice trembled, anger and hurt flickering like a candle threatened by the wind. "About feeling like he failed you," Liz replied quietly, her eyes glistening with sympathy. "He thought he was disappointing you when he couldn't be the man you needed him to be. He felt like a burden for not being the fighting warrior he wanted to be. Even when he was struggling, he worried more about you than about himself." Melissa felt her pulse quicken, but another memory enveloped her. But he put on a brave face. How could he think we wouldn't want to support him? Because, Jason interjected, his voice steady, he believed vulnerability was a sign of weakness, something he felt he had to hide from you. He didn't want to add to your pain. And maybe he thought leaving meant protecting you. A wave of realization washed over Melissa. He wanted to be our rock, but instead he became a ghost disappearing without giving us a chance to support him, she murmured, her heart breaking into sharper pieces. This was the truth, unraveling before them as they picked at the raw ends of regret. The cafe buzzed around them, yet time felt still. So you knew about all this? Melissa directed towards Liz, hope and resentment mingling in her voice. You could have told us. I was scared, Liz admitted, her gaze falling. I didn't want to betray Dave's trust. There were things he kept secret. I wanted him to feel like he wasn't alone, but I didn't understand until it was too late. As the weight of Liz's words settled, Melissa felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into the depths of what could have been. We failed him as much as he might have felt like he failed us. Jason leaned forward, a tone of urgency in his voice. But you have a chance to honor him. That foundation, those dreams, they can still breathe life. Melissa turned her gaze to him. And what about the secrets? How can we move forward when we weren't even part of his journey? Liz looked back at Melissa, determination slowly replacing her earlier uncertainty. We can't change the past. But sharing his journey, the struggles he faced, could help others who felt the same way. It's never too late to transform pain into purpose. We can make his story something that inspires. A flicker of hope ignited between them all. Could it be true? Could the legacy of a man wrapped in secrecy be transformed into a beacon for others still battling unseen battles? Jake's voice broke the heavy silence. What do we do? We need to pull together and create something meaningful. Melissa felt another surge of energy coursing through her veins. Together, she echoed, the word emerging warm and full of resolve. If we can find a way to honor him, to bring light where darkness once resided, it could change everything. Jason nodded, his voice growing firmer. Then it's time we stop letting guilt bind us and start using our collective pain for a greater purpose. We owe that to him. As they all shared glances, Melissa felt the weight of Dave's absence but also a newfound clarity. They had the power to turn devastation into something beautiful. They could reach out to those who felt alone and isolated, just as Dave had once felt. Liz reached across the table, squeezing Melissa's hand. Let us do this. Let us create a foundation in his honor. Let's change the narrative. It's time for healing for all of us. Melissa's heart began to thrum with anticipation. It wouldn't wash away the pain, but it could guide them toward a community where no one would feel invisible again. As they crafted plans, excitement filled the room, the language of hope replacing the shadows that once surrounded them. They were ready to take the first steps towards honoring his memory, proving that even in the wake of darkness, hope could bloom anew. This was their transformational moment. And as they left the cafe, Melissa looked up at the sky, the sun breaking through the clouds, illuminating their path. Today was a start, and she felt hopeful, ready to embrace it. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm. Let me know in the comments how this ending impacted you and what you thought. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together we can make a difference.